Hello, all you cool orcs and goblins. This is Hugh the Lizard, coming to you with our Week 5 recap. Better late than never, I always say. Yeah, we're most of the way through Week 6. So, looking at the teams will be you a bit of a spoiler for next week for most of the teams, I think. But we'll just sort of go ahead. Um, Innovation, unfortunately, won't be able to join me because of a miscommunication about the timing of the recording. So sadly, you'll only be hearing me talking, and I am not a big talker. So this will probably be pretty short. Uh, that's probably for the best given that it's late. Anyway, moving right into it, let's start with the Children of Doom versus Flaming Zombs. So we start off with what looks like a really rough game for the Rats. You get KO from the first block of the game, followed quickly by a dead Lino. But things sort of quickly go the other way, where the Orcs have a bit of bad luck with a failed pickup, which means the Rats have an opportunity to put a lot of pressure on them, and they have to pass the ball to secure it. At this point, the uh, before the clip that I'm going to show you, the Rats haven't really done much to interfere with the ball. They've kind of let the Orcs move up after they escaped the initial pressure. But instead of focusing on the ball, they decide that their dead comrade needs to be avenged. So they focus on doing some damage. And they take out the orc killer. Apo is used, but fails. They're not done yet. He comes in for with a DP fallow against a Mighty Blow Blitzer. And it works. Oh, actually, no, sorry. That's Mighty Blow Blitzer. At this point, the Orcs have had enough and decide that they're just going to score. But uh, so the next drive, um, like throughout the rest, basically, essentially, the drive can be summed up as the Orcs trying to do damage and the Skaven actually out removing the Orcs. In the next drive, you're gonna start off with 9 Orcs versus 10 Rats because the injury on the Lino. I think there was a send off in there too, but pretty quickly the Skaven actually gets to remove another orc, so it ends up being 8 versus 10. Um, the orcs do get a bit of luck as the Rats fail to pick up and the orcs can base up the ball. But really, basing up the ball just puts a great big target on your head. Claw piling on is officially disgusting. Yes, it's just a skillless Lino, but you're now 6 Orcs facing up against 10 Skaven. And Skaven can pretty easily come in and get the ball. So there's a couple of turns. Well, there's only really one turn of sort of maneuvering. Has the Skaven try to get a good positioning on the orcs. So they go for the classic. Oh wait, hang on. Oh yes, sorry, I skipped it. Yeah, I didn't show the score, but the Skaven do score on turn 8. Next half, the orcs get some of their own back by causing a rat thrower to uh, get a casualty. Rats stayed back to defend the ball as they try and fail to do some more damage, so that the rats are really looking for the removal game at this point. And there was a critical, like, this is a good example of how small things can make a big difference in the game, is just moving this agi for orc up to put a little pressure, kind of change a lot of the dynamic of just the let's see who can kill the other guy the fastest game that was going on for the first 3 turns of this half. Uh, Recognizing the threat, the Children of Dune try to get rid of him, but they just can't seem to bring him down. And they move the ball away. But Skaven kind of, after failing to bring him down, they kind of failed to make this ball safe, especially from an Agi 4. And just come on, you can do it, you can do it. Oh no. And that bit of good play of having that pressure there, the luck of keeping him up doesn't quite pay off, and you have a self-cas from Orc. I would say that skull one, like sorry, that snake ones into a casualty was really the turning point of the game. It kind of felt like the rats just had the upper hand at that point, and they kept it throughout the rest of the game. But rats being rats, did they serve any mercy? Of course they didn't. And you have a dead rookie blitzer. The, the Flaming Zones decide to get some vengeance back, but the ref is having none of it. The ref has been enjoying all the blood. Uh, there's really only one more play, I would say, of great significance in this game, and that's when the Orcs go for the hero sack near the end. They it came pretty close. Like I got excited when I saw the first successful dodge, but the second dodge just didn't make it. I will say that, like, good for Kronk for going for the blitz, and bad on the rats for even given the opportunity. Um, yeah, ball protection. Even if the opponent has to throw dice, it's a dice game, and sometimes dice will work. Okay, switching to looking at the teams. Uh, Children of Doom come out of it with one dead lineman, a couple badly hurt, not too bad, and they managed to uh, level up the Storm Vermin, which is pretty nice for them. Flaming Zuns, a little come out a little bit more hurt. They lose a blitzer. Even a rookie blitzer kind of sucks because they're one of the more expensive players on the Orc teams. And the niggle on, or sorry, not niggle, but movement bust on the killer blitzer also really sucks because you lose that movement 6 player that Orcs desperately lack. and it makes it a little bit harder for that blitzer to get out from a pylon and hit someone else. Jump up, I think, becomes a really important skill, but that's a double, so uh, what can you do? Just hope to roll a double when he gets a level up after causing 2 more casualties. So yeah, let's see what Ganem Atreides got. Mighty Blow. Fair enough. Cannot complain too much about that. I guess the idea will be that he's going to be developed into a second killer. Guard might have been something to consider there, but probably just focusing the Storm Vermin on being killers makes a fair bit of sense. Okay, so the next game that we're going to talk about is Rex Lupus versus Jeanne d'Arc. Innovation was good enough to send me some notes that he had taken about the game, so I'm just going to basically read out the notes. Okay, so the Brits played. This is occurring to Innovation because I didn't actually watch this game. Played solidly, but injuries mounted up and decided this one early. Could have played a much more solid defense, even with missing numbers. Felt like he had a chance to stop 1 or 2 Necro scores by blitzing scoring threats and using the elf screen. Rex Lupus, ball security is an issue. I think a lot of people have been struggling with that this week. Seems overly focused on hits, but has definitely improved his tendency through the season. Got punished hard for leaving AG for Ghoul open to hits. Overall, Joshua Shi, is that how you want to pronounce that? I don't know. Let's go with that. Made good use of his removals and gave himself great options to make a comeback score in the first half. Still greed some hits, though, and maybe that's something he could look at and improve by using his blitz more tactically for position over value. Yeah, this is um, using the blitzes to with the goal of removing versus getting position. I think it's a decision that you have to make every turn, and I think you have to try not to be too biased towards one or the other. I think for a lot of my gameplay, I go too much in the direction of going for position rather than trying to remove key players when I have the opportunity to. But at the same time, the game I play the worst so far this season, I lost the game probably because I made the decision to blitz a key player versus blitzing for position. And it put me in the spot where I had to roll dice to keep the ball safe. And I failed those dice. And then I failed the next batch of dice to keep it safe. And I ended up not being able to score and losing 1-0. So this is, I think it's a great thing for Innovation to point out in play because I think like the bloodthirsty let's try to kill the other team to win doesn't reliably win you games, whereas having good position and picking your moments to try to remove players, I think can reliably win you games. So let's look at the teams. We had a Werewolf level up, which should be interesting. It's already such a nice Werewolf. A double would be nice with jump up there. Maybe Juggernauts? No, that's a double too. I think, what do werewolves get? Just general skills? I don't know. I think so. So what would be a good general skill to add on to that? Maybe Strip Ball, but I feel like that's not best value. Well, we'll see in a moment what he got. The Agi. Oh, the before mentioned hit on the Agi for Ghoul, I guess, calls the Niggle, which is sad, and you probably want to. Maybe you keep it. I was about to say get rid of it because I might do that if it was a skink, but the ghoul's not stunty, so maybe it's not so bad. You just have to really defend it. Having Agi 4 is just great. And the John d'Arc fans, despite receiving lots of removals, current innovation come out of it pretty easy. They just have a Lino that they're gonna have to replace, and they got a level up on a blocker. Guard probably. Either guard. Well, actually, maybe tackle because Wackle's always good, but um, I would say either guard or tackle would be the classic choices there. So let's check. Hang on. Let's check Rex Lupus first. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Sidestep, actually, that makes more sense than anything else I was talking about because then you can surf someone without being scared of being surfed yourself, at least not very easily. He gets the ghoul, uh, and that's going to be damage from this week's game, I believe. Then let's see what John d'Arc gave their blocker. Guard, which makes sense. I guess he has a build that he likes for the blockers, and he's going for that consistency. I'm a big fan of Guard as a skill, so I don't disapprove by any means. Okay, Big Dippers versus Burying Lads. Yeah, this is one disadvantage of doing this by myself is all the time I need to pull things up and grab things. I try to do that while innovation's talking. But here we go. Okay. So early on, the Chaos tries to push its way up the right flank with a lot of um, the lizard positions out of the lizard Ceres out of position. You can kind of see them to the left over here. It did look like a good move, but lizards are surprisingly fast, and one great advantage of them is that they can get back into position pretty quickly. They managed to base the ball. The dodge out fails. I think there was a double skull earlier in that turn, so they weren't able to re-roll it. And the scatter is pretty good for the lizards here. Then they blitz with the loner. Loner skill can be really painful. Yeah, I think you can kind of justify the choice of blitzing with the loner before getting the ball. You fail on the 136 versus a 1 and 9 to pick up the ball. Uh, it just really sucks. Yeah, I'm not gonna say what he did there was absolutely wrong, even though I hate doing things with players that have loner skills. But yeah, that just sucks. That just feels really bad when he could have tried for the ball. Uh, blitzes with his own loner player, but not punished for it. Gets the ball into a good scatter. Sets up the hit over there and goes for the pickup. gets the pickup and fails the GFI. But this time he has a reroll, so he will try again and succeeds. Both teams now playing without rerolls, which is always fun to watch. They move over to the side and get a pretty good result from a fireball. Can't complain too much about that. You get a pretty good chance with the ball. I would have tried scattering the ball there. That could backfire on you because it could land in two spots, but most likely it would have been okay. And you could avoid the 4+ pickup. Oh, actually, this I forgot to mention. I don't know how he missed it, but there's a guard skink now on the team. I both love and hate it. I feel like block and sure hands is the conventional skill because those are the skills that make the most sense. But I love it when people try these things out. So I'm excited to see how it works out. I think the only thing that you have to I think Sticky B has to allow himself to realize that double on that skink's gonna die. That skink's gonna die horribly at some point. You gave him a skill that the only use for it is for basing, so he's gonna die. But if you're happy with that, then yeah, having that guard, that mobile guard to open up some blocks can be really useful. So I'm actually really interested to see how he's used. I guess you'd give him a diving tackle as his next skill up, because that could be kind of fun too. So this key moment and fails to pick up. Would have succeeded the pickup. Actually, would have still failed the pickup if he had moved the other player, but result-based analysis doesn't really work. So, yeah. I feel like this is a mess. Anyway, the Chaos goes, gets the ball, but fails to pick up. So the in the next turn, the Lizards actually manage to retrieve the ball, and they survive a sack and manage to move the ball down the field a little bit more. But then they make what was a critical mistake of positioning. With this skink here, he decided to cover the warrior that is not really in range when he should be moving the warrior more off to the side to block these players from running up and hitting the skink. But it all's well that ends well because he gets a bit of luck, and the Beastman manages to stun himself, giving Sticky B the opportunity to pick up the ball and fail to run it in. Yeah, that trip wire can be a real pain. The next clip I've included just has an example of how balls out crazy I thought Sticky B was in a lot of this game. He was making, I think, previous times I've just said I've thought that Sticky B was like tilting because he was losing the game, but maybe it's just his play style is to be a little crazy, which I guess having a guard skink would suggest that. So here's just one fun example of Sticky B being sort of insane, where he comes in to foul with a Ceres. He has no bribe. I I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I would never do it, but it's kind of fun to watch. So good on you, Sticky B, for being a little nuts. But at the same time, I guess because he was focused on doing that insane foul that could have backfired on him really badly, he didn't notice that he had left a pretty straightforward sack on the ball open. You just have to move that one player out of the way with this block. And then run the Beastman around. And all you need to do is roll pals. Lizards do get it back. And they're able to push through the line that the Chaos had in front of them for score around turn 12. So the Lizards are now up 1-0. For the next drive, starting off, the Lizards roll a blitz, so they're able to apply some pressure, and they force the Chaos to attempt a pass attempt, but the catch fails. So the ball is now on the ground. The Lizards go in to clear the way. I guess he realized at that point that he was blocking the Skinks, so he goes for the 6+ dodge, which is crazy and really like he should have just left the pickup attempt for the next turn. As much as that doesn't always feel good to do that, rolling that, trying to get that 6+, even with committing a reroll to it, I don't think makes a lot of sense. The only thing I can think of really there is that maybe he didn't realize that he was making a dodge. I've definitely done that, especially with Saris, where I think that I'm clear, and so I click away without noticing that I have to dodge to get out, and I've been burned by that, so I'll give Sticky B the benefit of the doubt and assume that's what happened there. The Kroxigor does his job by staying put, making it hard for them to get at this ball. After all that effort to get rid of the Crocs, it doesn't end up mattering, as Agi 4 is gross sometimes. He puts the ball there, which is not even remotely kind of sort of safe. There's the easiest 2+ hit in the world there. Takes a reroll, but he still manages to get him down. Come in for the Loner Skink recovery. Fortunately fails and results in a self-knockout. Hang on, I just need to pause the recording for a moment. Okay, I am back. And I kind of forget where we were, but I'll just press play and see what happens. Oh yeah, he'd failed to pick up. So this time he does gather the ball, and this time I have no idea why he did that. He just had to move that one player, and the pickup would have been open for any skink that able to dodge through. But now he just made his life entirely more difficult for himself. That I think that's just something that you have to be conscious of and careful of. So the pickup attempt does fail, and Chaos have a chance to make this a draw at the last minute, since this is such a passy Chaos team. Moves the Beastmen downfield to be a scoring threat. Comes in with the passer. Why get out of tackle zones when you have to roll so much? Throws the ball, it works, but then the fail, unfortunately, prevents the draw. Has one more chance here, but again, the failed catch prevents the draw. So overall, congratulations for Sticky B to his first win if the season. I've gone through quite a few droughts myself, so I'm sure it feels great to have won. I would just say that the balls out crazy way of playing that you have is fun to watch, and I hope you have fun playing it. But it usually doesn't work out that well. So just hope you're having fun doing it, playing that way. Um, and sometimes that during the game your aggressive play worked. Uh, so good for that. Burying the boys, or is it burying the lads? I think it's burying the lads. Yeah, burying the lads. Um, just had a lot of bad dice this week. Just the passing didn't work for him where it's worked in the past, especially the catching. I was disappointed that the fact that the Minotaur has AG3 is now Agility 3 didn't come into play at any point during the game. I suspect that it would rarely come into play, but if you got it, I think you should try to use it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I would have taken that Agi up. Because I just feel like you're not going to be using it that much, and you didn't this game. I'll see you in future games. So Sylvie was the only one on that team that had more than a badly hurt, so that doesn't matter. So the Big Dippers are looking pretty good going into their next game. Well, as good as this team is, anyway. They have no casualties or anything to worry about. Uh, how much winnings do they have? 70k. You may want to replace one of your skinks, um, if nothing else, to keep the integrity of the naming scheme. Burying the lads, no levels, no nothing. I'm just curious if Big Dipper replaced the skink. Yeah, looks like they did. Okay, moving on to the next game, which is another one that Innovation sent me notes for. So let me just pull those up. Oh, you know what? I didn't show the teams. I had it stuck on the video setting instead of the window capture setting. So you didn't see what I was talking about during that time, but oh well, there was not really that much there to say. Um, BBC versus Nuffle at Mechana. The notes from Innovation read BBC had lots of sacks. Yeah, elves can get lots of sacks, so that makes sense. Had a couple of good chances early, but poor scouters allowed the humans to consolidate. Maybe overbasing costs them the numbers later in the game. Needs to play in needs to keep in mind the potential ball recovery options when sacking. Yeah, bringing the ball to the ground when you don't have good recovery. Uh, it's not pointless, but is usually not worth the investment of resources that have to go into it. Overall, a solid game. Was probably unlucky not to turn over the humans on their drive and get the win. The Nuffle Mechana Ogre Blitzing is awful, and committing a reroll to it felt bad, even though it's potentially 6 dice with a commitment to reroll a Bonehead or 127. Would have allowed the BBC to score easily on their drive. Yeah. Stop blitzing with your Ogre. I see you do it every game, Nuffle Mechana. Please just stop. It has literally cost you games, and Innovation thinks it could have cost you this one. Uh, Nuffle X Machina kept his team together really well and swarmed the elves, using his advantage of beating them up and forcing his way through. Felt his turn 8, there were options to open up the scoring avenue over taking a blitz on the back right of his cage. Overall, solid defense and suffocating offense when he bully the elves to get them to commit to basing up too much on occasion because of how aggressively they played and punish them for it. Would like to see a lot less reliance on the big guy, as I feel is essential to his plan. And yeah, that's if your big guy is like the core of your plan, then he's gonna let you down quite often. The big guy, in my opinion, the big guy is just there to get in the way more than actually do stuff. You only do stuff with the big guy if you're desperate or not desperate. The opposite, like things are going really well for you. Otherwise, just let your big guy stand there and absorb hits. Okay, looking at the team. Oh, an armor bust on the Blitzer. That's a pretty key piece for him, I think. Having that diving tackle is very useful. So that is unfortunate. And an armor bust on a player that's most useful when you base up with someone is really painful. I don't know if you keep him. Um, maybe you don't. Uh, a level up on the lineman who has block already, so maybe you give him dodge. For the Nephilim Mechana, they got some pretty good team development. No long-lasting casualties. The Agi 4 Blitzer has a level up. Mm-hmm. What would you want to give him? There's a lot of lack of tackle on this team, so maybe tackle makes sense there. I don't know if that's the optimal play, but it will close up the hole that I think the lack of tackle has opened up. The thrower, if you're what's the next thing after you have sure hands and accurate? Not totally sure because I don't really develop throwers that way, so I kind of forget what the other passing skills are. Leader is kind of fun if you're looking to keep your TV down a little bit more. Your TV's already kind of high at 1820, so that could be useful. So let's see what the BBCs gave player number 10. Dodge has, yes, that does make sense. Gives the ability to dodge out easier, and it's a good defensive skill. So he gave him leader. That's I think that's a good skill for that thrower to have. Yeah, didn't get rid of a reroll. May consider getting rid of a reroll depending on who you're playing against, because then you still get the 3 rerolls, which I think is the right amount of rerolls for most teams, and then you can not be giving up as much in TV for inducements against you. The Agi. Oh, sorry, was this strength 4? Or did I misread it? Oh no, that's the other team. Right. Okay. Am I confusing myself? Yeah, I'm confusing myself. No, I'm not. Where's the Agi 4? Oh, did we lose the Agi 4 guy? Yeah, looks like we lost to the Agi 4 guy in this week's game. Well, I look forward to seeing how that happens. That's really unfortunate. I guess I guess we can look at the historic record to find out. Actually, we can see here what he gave him. He gave him guard. Gave him guard, which got him to stand up next to someone, and he promptly got himself killed. Oh, guard with 87. Yeah, I don't think that was a great choice. I get why you want lots of guard on human teams, but as soon as you took the Agi 4, I think you needed to develop that player in a different way, and I suppose you got punished for it. But we will see that in next week recap. Okay, Face Planters versus the Bourbon Street Brawlers. And this is one that I have clips for, so let's switch over to that. Okay, so the Brawlers come in as the underdog here, and they take a Wiz, a Bribe, and a Babe. Something I hadn't noticed before, or maybe I had and forgot about it. Face Planters has 5 rerolls, which is really excessive. 4, I think, is excessive. Having 5, like most games, you're not going to use 5 rerolls, and then it's just TV that allowed the Brawlers to have a Wiz, a Bribe, and a Babe. It's really too much. You should get rid of one of those rerolls. Maybe there was a kickoff that. Oh yeah, sorry. I should talk about what's happening in front of me. Maybe there was a kickoff event that gave him 5, but even if you have 4, you should not have that many. Yeah, so Fireball super early in the game. Results in Smash Collarbone getting a death. And Apothecary saves the day, but out in Apothecary disturbingly early. 2 removals from a Fireball and a clear hit on the ball. You cannot ask for more than that. And then he gets the 3rd removal from a good punch in the face. Comes in for the pickup and passes it downfield. He's in a great position to stall out, but he chooses to score the next turn. All of the KOs for Face Planter comes back for the next drive, and the guy who was apothecaried obviously comes back. This puts things. This makes that Fireball a little less swingy than otherwise could have been, and the Brawlers are able to put a fair bit of pressure on the Face Planters. The Brawlers follow, but not with their dirty player, which was very disappointing for me to see. They fouled with a loner instead, and the loner got caught without doing any damage. And I just want to insist that if you have a dirty player, why send an amateur when you can send a professional elf dirty player? Come on, what are you thinking? Jeez. Yeah. Okay. If you can't tell by my tone, I'm joking. I just thought it was funny that you went for the foul without the dirty player and then you got caught. But hey, that meant that you still had the dirty player on the field, so maybe it worked out for you. So yeah, classic Else decide to throw the ball down the field um, and score. This gives the Brawlers 3 turns to score, and Riot actually turns that into 4 turns. The Brawlers cause a casualty on the Face Planter player with leap and movement plus, so that's a pretty big loss for that team. And it was the first injury that stuck for the whole game, but it will not last. Yeah, just more elves being elves. He rolls it to make the dodge out easier. And runs it in. So at this point in the game, I felt like this was like, okay, this is a classic elf shootout. We're gonna run up the score. But in the second half, the dynamic totally changed. Uh, the casualties started mattering a lot more. This is just sort of like in turn 8, the face planters suffer another casualty, meaning that they're now down 2 players. So the face planters are down, I think, 9 versus 11 brawlers. Oh, and to be fair, 3 of those 9 are loners anyway. And the dirty player has another moment in the sun. I will point out that if it hadn't been a dirty player, that would have just been a KO. So that's why you send the professional in. Uh, the removals really had a big impact on this game. But that doesn't mean that the elves weren't still doing elf stuff. Pass down the field and run all the way where no one can possibly reach you. An extra GFI to make it a little safe. All right, so now they have a commanding 3-1 lead, and I feel like this is pretty much in the bag for the Brawlers. And then they decide to run backwards. Instead of scoring, they're like, well, you know what? We're having too much fun beating up on these snooty high elves. So let's run the field ball back into our side of the field and just kick the shit out of them a little more. Yeah, that sounds like a great old time. Reroll even to get the damage. Dirty player decides to live up to his reputation and succeeds with another removal, although he gets himself sent off for it. Still, he did his job. He removed 2 players before he was removed, and there are 5 elves, or 5 high elves to 10 pro elves. And as soon as I thought that, as soon as that, oh, it's 5 versus 10 went through my head, this happened. Now it's 4 versus 10. I don't think I've ever seen an elf off with this one-sided removals. They remember there's the ball, pass it, and I think, okay, he's going to run it to safety. And not only does he not run it to safety, he runs it backwards to unsafety, and then GFIs to make it even less safe. Given the High Elves opportunity for one man to be a hero above all others, but just can't get him down. Another attempt. This time it works, and like the chances of scoring here for the High Elves wasn't 0. It was unlikely, but it wasn't 0. And I was really like thinking this would be a pretty hilarious uh, tie game, but it wasn't in the cards. The Pro Elves got control the situation pretty quickly after that. And even managed to throw in this surf just to punish the audacity of even thinking about trying to make this into a game again. And pushes him off to his death, where the crowd, not expecting to see so much blood in Elfhoff, decide that they want to get in on the action and commit murder. Yeah, so that was a one-sided, but still, I think, entertaining match to watch. Let me just check. Yeah, okay, I did switch it over this time. Face Planters versus the Bourbon Street Brawlers. The Face Planters suffered that death. I mean, like a level 3 Blitzer. It sucks. It sucks losing a player like that. It was definitely fun to watch, but my heart does go off to the Face Planters and their loved ones for having the vicious crowd rip them to pieces. And they suffered at MNG with their catcher and an armor bust on level 3 lineman. So I don't remember how did Face Planters, how did Spoon do in the next game? He lost. Hard to, without seeing that game yet, I'm hard to really imagine that. I imagine that was a very difficult game for him to win. He's losing. He lost a lot of the tools that would have been helpful for that game. Uh, yeah, with the leap and the tackle against Skaven. Bourbon Street Brawlers came out unscathed, and they have 2 level ups. One on level 8 catcher and one on the level 11 lineman. Grasshopper gets an Agi up. That's great to see on an elf team. Well, Agi up is great to see on almost any player except for Asaurus. But yeah, that's great that he has that as a tool. And the player that leveled up previous week, I guess, didn't survive the coming week. Ojin. Oh, there he is. He has block now. Okay. That is a very reasonable choice. I have no critique to say. Okay. Chicago Bullshite versus the El Imperio Contraca. Yeah, because I'm not much of a talker, my voice is already getting quite tired after a mere 53 minutes of talking, and now my childhood speech impediment, where I can't say R's, seems to be coming out. So this is fun for me. Oh, it is fun for me. So I shouldn't complain. I just really miss innovation. Okay. Speaking of innovation, what did he say about this game? Okay. Chicago had plenty of hits on the ball, which isn't surprising because they're Kislev. And even though he suffered plenty of early removals, the Wiz Stadium really helped him out here. Yeah, I think Wiz is probably a good stadium to have for Kislev, so that makes sense. Split the Chorf really well second half, punishing that Protect 5 formation. As is Nero, he made great use of the wings to maximize his mobility advantage. Yeah, Protect 5, I think, is, or Rule 5, as I've heard it called too, is a great formation when you're playing against Bash and against a lot of slower teams, but Kislev, like you do give them your opponent a lot of space um, to sort of set themselves up. Like this is another thing that I'm guilty of. I often just do the default same defense against every team in every situation, but sometimes you really have to watch the flanks, especially if you're expecting an attempt at a quick score. Overall, good game for Kisla. Made some good calculated plays, but did get caught up with aggression, offering a fair amount of hits. Would like to see him make his opponents defend a wider pitch, as he sometimes gets too narrow. On his offense, I feel he gets a bit too jittery and wants to get it over with as soon as he can to get back on defense, which is a problem we've talked about a lot, I think, with this coach. But I could see how you get into that frame of mind where you're comfortable on defense. You just want to score as quickly as possible, but really like the best offensive, like the same thing with me with Lizards. Like it's really easy for some teams to score really fast, and then some teams it's tough to get the score in at all. Uh, Learning how to pace your offensive drive, I think, is a really key skill. Um, yeah, I guess the only thing that I can recommend is watching lots of games from players that you respect and seeing how they don't go for the oh god. Okay, I'm gonna make a Twilight analogy. Remember, I'm sure you all remember in Twilight when the New Blood vampires are coming to kill Bella, and the vampire who's like from the Civil War was training everyone how to fight the New Blood, and he had that really hilariously bad line where he said like, "Never go for the obvious kill," or or don't just watch out for the obvious kill because they won't go for that. There's something along that lines. Just because you see an opening doesn't mean you have to take it. You can wait for a better opening. You can wait for an opening that works on the pace that works for what you need to get done on that drive. Um, and actually, that's a good piece of advice too that I try to do at the beginning of each drive. I think of like, what is my ideal outcome for this drive? What turn do I want to score on? it it won't work out that way most of the time exactly, but if you have like how you want the drive to play out in your mind every turn, you can sort of build to that goal that you have. So that would be my piece of advice, especially on offense when you think of like, do I want to spend a couple turns trying to do some damage and then move up the ball? Do I want to like take over the center and hold the center until I can make a move? Do I want to score quick because I don't have a lot of time? Like these are all decisions that you should make while you're doing the setup, and just sort of stick to the plan until the plan no longer makes sense. So let's look at their teams. Um, yeah, looks that's a pretty bad casualty on that catcher, actually. That's unfortunate to have. They're already armor 7, so having an armor 6 player on the field is a big liability, even with the doubles with the um, guard. I mean, you give him guard and he's gonna get hit. Like he is blodge, but still, I feel like if you keep that player, he's not going to last for too long. But he did get a level up with Nutcrackers. We'll look at that in a moment. No damage to the Chorfs, and they level up a Bull Centaur, who I imagine will be getting Break Tackle. So the lineman, Nutcracker, um, Wrestle probably. I think he has a maybe wrestle tackle. No, probably wrestle. I'd give him wrestle. Let's see what he gave him. Wrestle. Okay, that makes sense. And let's see what the Bull Centaur got. Break tackle. That also makes sense. I have nothing further to say on that topic. Okay, we're at our final game, Exploding Skulls versus Soul Power. Another game that I have a recording for, so let me pull that up. Okay, so just some information to begin with. Soul Power has a wizard, and the weather somewhat hilariously goes from being a blizzard to a blizzard. We have, yeah, the poor Chorf was kicked to death and then forced to work along with the people who just murdered him. Um, does lead to a send off, but hey, he's not down any extra zombies, so it works out in the end. Okay, so Skull at one point. Uh, you know what? It's been so long since I've watched these games. I'm relying on my notes a little bit more than usual. Okay, so there was a point where the Skulls had 2D on the ball that they either didn't see or chose not to take. Uh, but after a few turns, they did get another chance that they did take this time, so they got a sack on the ball. Just took a little bit of manufacturing to happen. That's why I forget exactly what the circumstances were, but that goal could probably have been a little bit over. Um, yeah, and once again, the dump off works really against the interests of the yeah the brave ghoul tried to bring down the bull center, but yeah, this the skulls are once again punished for having uh, that dump off. Just sorry, soul power. I just don't think it works for Necro. Uh, I saw in the Discord chat that the dump off player did a thing again. Uh, I look forward to seeing exactly what that thing was. Chorfs move towards the touch zone and look poised to score. When the wizard zapped. Wolf came in. Still a chance because that bull's in the way. Or bull's near enough. Gets that 4+, but doesn't get the next 4+ that he needs, and he has no rerolls, so that stops any score from happening. Which is great because that would have been a score on Soul Power's drive. Second half was really Skull's game. Soul Power put a lot of pressure on the ball that I liked, but it never actually paid off. So I felt like Skull just ended up dominating the second half. There was one mistake by Soul Power that I just want to point out here. Right, yeah, it's this greed block here that he decides to reroll. Uh, I mean, when you have 3 rerolls, greed blocking is okay, but then he has to come in and throw a 1 dice when you know that later in the turn you're going to be throwing risky dice. It's really not the time to greed. Like, usually I don't like greeding to begin with. I always hate myself when I do it. Uh, But when you have a 1 die to bring down the ball, that's going to turn into a 2 die, which is going to bring down your werewolf. Like that's just not the right time to greed. Um, it just, yeah, like I feel like that's just I want to hurt things kind of moment where like, yeah, kill it, but you have to take a second to consider like what else has to happen in the turn. Um, I have in my notes just I hate Claw, and I really, really do hate Claw, but we'll see why I hate Claw. Oh yeah, and of course there's no regen. Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Soul Power, but yeah, Skulls just continue to just kind of dominate. Um, but they do at one point leave a small opening for the Necro team to try to take advantage of. Yeah, werewolves are fast. Uh, has to go for it in the Blizzard, which costs him having to use the reroll. He's two attempts to bring him down. Oh no, wait, only one attempt because that was his max movement. Yeah, that could have been a great play for the Necros, but unfortunately, it just didn't pay off for them. Um, and it was pretty easy for them to get him free. Uh, that's the closest chance that Necro will have on the ball for the rest of the game. They do manage to base it a couple times, but it's pretty easily blocked out, especially with their Golem gone, their Necro just being outmuscled, outnumbered, and don't have a lot of chances to get anything done. And I'm watching this and I'm remembering that the score was 0-0. So, what kind of heroic play would it take for Necro to keep this a tied game? I was waiting at the edge of my seat to find out until I did. I'm like, as soon as I saw this happening, I'm like, oh, I see what's gonna happen here. He wanted SPP on Torf guard, but like I guess like to me that signals more than anything that Abram is viewing this as a development season and he doesn't care about winning, which is fine, perfectly fine. I respect that. I think that's sometimes an attitude that you have to take. I just it makes it less fun to watch, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I hated it so much. I just did. Part of me said like, well, at least try to hand off the Bull Centaur where you have a 75% chance instead of like a I forget like a 4 out or 5 out of 9 chance with the reroll handing it off to a Chorf. I don't know. Maybe I would have been like, no, I don't think so. I was gonna say I would have been all for it if it had worked, but I don't think I would have. I think I still would have disliked it. But I think that's more of a personal thing than an objective truth by any means. If you want to focus on development, and if that piece was your development priority, even if the chances weren't great that it'll work, sure, go ahead. Uh, that's if that's what you like to do, then go ahead. Looking at the teams, we have the blocker who died, but no levels. Would he have gone a level? Yep. Yeah. To be fair, he would have gone a level from that, and then he would have had my blow claw. So it's not a ridiculous thing to do by any means. I don't know. I guess I just like winning. I like the feeling of winning. So if I play, I like to play to win, even if I'm way behind in the standings. Even if I don't think this is my season, I still like to win. So I guess I was projecting my own feelings on the Exploding Skulls. Yeah, a dead flesh golem. So I would say that the Butcher's Bill was much worse for the soul powers. And a zombie who levels up, and zombie will get. He already has two dirty players. Does he really need a third? Maybe wrestle. Just yeah, either wrestle or get rid of it is what I would think. Let's see what he does. Uh, did he just fire the other kick player? Oh no. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh, he gave him tackle. Which is interesting. I guess he's building him up to be Wackle, but with tackle as his first skill, which gives him an extra tackle. Even though hitting with that zombie is not safe, and movement 4, it's not like you're gonna be hitting the ball with that player. But yeah, I don't know if it's optimal, but I can at least see what he might have been thinking with that. I think Wrestle has the first skill in the Wackle combination. Makes a little bit more sense. I'm not even sure if Wackle on a zombie is great because of the movement for. You might want to like your zombies are starting to get a little well developed. I feel like it may be time to get rid of them or some of them. Oh, you know what you could have done? You could have gotten rid of the Agi one dirty player and then given Earth, Wind, and Fire dirty player, just so that like if you need to, you still got that 4+ dodge out to foul if it's just such a juicy foul that you feel like you have to. So that's all the teams. With half the recappers, we made it through in a little more than half the time. Just last thing to do would be to look at the standings, which I did have. Hang on. I did have a thing set up for it, but I think I must have gotten rid of it. Just pull it up. I screenshot the standings so that I could look at it, but just have to pull it up. Okay, here it is. It's a little bigger. Yeah, so at the end of week 5, things are looking a little different in week 6. We'll look at that next week. Well, maybe I'll look at it in a moment, just for the fun of it. Yeah, Exploding Skulls remain at the bottom. It could have been up there at ranked 10th versus 14th. But that's the decision they made, and I really should stop harping on that because I get that they were just trying to do something different than I would have done. So really, I shouldn't be so grumpy about it. I'm a recapper, and grumpiness is my prerogative. Kanuki at the top. Um, Not the most commanding lead in the world. Can still very easily be overtaken by any of the top 4 players. Um, well, I guess not by Robin, because even if Kanuki lost his game, then when Robin won his game, then Kanuki would still be ahead by virtue of the touchdown difference. But Children of Dune and Chicago Bolshoi are both within reach of first place. And then the first, like, fifth and sixth, the Barry and the Lads and John d'Arc, I think, are very much in competition for playoffs. It gets a little bit tougher if you look at Nuffle X Mechana down. X the number 7, 8, 9 spot. If things break their way really well in the next couple of weeks, they might be able to put themselves back in a position to be competitive. But I am sad to say, like, I'm starting to see this. You're starting to see a little bit of movement between the top sort of 6 teams, and then another 3 teams are trying to get into those top 6, and then everyone else is, I think, out of the running for playoffs. But yeah, as of now, Bourbon Street Brawlers and Chicago Bolshoi are looking like the favorites, but we still have more than half a season to go, so that top tier can shake up. Like the top, like 6 to 9 positions can easily shake up quite a bit from here to there. Actually, you know what? Let's just look at what happened. I'm kind of a little curious how things are shaping up for week 6, and then we'll do the full week 6 recap later. Just in terms of the standings. Yeah, this is kind of why I was interested to look, because I'd seen that yeah, Kanuki didn't win his game, which gave an opportunity for Children of Doom to take that first place spot. Could lose that first place spot to the Kislev Bolshites. But we'll have to see what happens. Nuffle Akmekana winning the game puts them, like, that's kind of what they need to do. Nuffle Akmekana need to, like, push themselves forward. I think if they do well in the next round, in round 7, then yeah, I would see them as being more competitive. But you know, like, I say that, and there's only 4 points between them and the top. Potentially 5 points though if Kislev wins their game, and Kislev are playing. Where are they? BBC, and yeah, I would predict that Bolshoi should win that game. I think it'd be a little bit of an upset if they don't. Exploding Skulls versus Big Dippers. That one, I feel like if that, like, as always, like, any Chorf team with claws, any team with claws can always beat a Lizardmen team. Like, it doesn't matter what those teams look like otherwise. If there's a claw and mighty blow, especially a claw palm, any Lizardman player is gonna be a little worried about that game, just because a Saras, like, you lose one Saras and you start sweating a little. You lose 2 Saras and you start really feeling it bad, and you lose the 3rd Saras and you basically, like, you kind of feel like you've lost the game. You shouldn't give up, but I wouldn't say that. But if that Claw Mighty Blow fires, then, like, they can win. That said, if it doesn't fire, I would probably give this to Sticky B. I think he has a good chance to win that game. The El Imperio Taka versus the Flaming Zones. Who do I think is going to win this one? Flaming Zones did lose a fair bit of key players. They don't have their killer blitzer. I will probably give this to the Chorus. Though the Chorus don't have a lot of claw, so it's not as good of a game for them, but I would say the Chorus have the advantage going in. Alright. Now my throat's completely dry. I'm losing all articulation, and so I'm just gonna say an awkward goodbye. Everyone, have fun and have a good week.